Okay, I just wanted to give an update on where I was with this project. And as you can see, I have the canopy pieces on. And it went okay. I apologize I didn't shoot any video of putting the canopies on. But it's one of those things where, I'm having a hard enough time getting down to the shop to do work. Again, during the summer, my kids off of school, it's just hard to get a lot of time down here. So what I would do is I would come down and just do like 5 minutes worth of work and then run back up or whatever. So I put the canopies on. I think I already talked about this before with this right here. This is a UV curable glue, or maybe resin is a better word. And the thing that I like about this is you can really take your time with it. You can get it positioned exactly the way you like it. If you make a mess, it wipes up very easily. And once you get things in position, you just hit it with the black light or blue light, infrared light, whatever it is. And that sets up the resin. So I just started with the back panel. I used a toothpick. I squeezed some of the resin out on a little cap. And I just used a toothpick and just very carefully put a little bead on the fuselage here and here. And I just set that window panel in place. Really took my time, got it positioned exactly the way I wanted it, and then put the light on it to set it. And then I masked off, let me see if I can find a little pointer tool here. I masked off with a little thin strip of masking tape around here and around here. And then with the point of a toothpick, I just put in a little bit of that UV resin all the way around in here, and then wiped off any excess, wiped it off nice and smooth, and then hit it with the light, and that filled in that gap perfectly. And then once I was satisfied with this panel, then I put on the next panel. Once I was satisfied with that, I put on the next. And again, once it was on, I would mask off around every seam and fill in with that UV resin and wipe off excess and hit it with the light. There were a few little minor gaps. There was a small gap right along here, but again, I filled it in with the resin. Once that's painted, you'll never see it. And as you can see, I already painted here and I painted here. There was a minor gap along here and a minor gap along here. But again, filled in with the resin, it came out pretty decent. And what I'm doing before I prime and paint this, and as you can tell, I've already gone through with the panel line wash. I went through all the panel lines with the wash. I sanded it all. I went through with an 800 grit sandpaper, sanded everything off, leaving just the panel lines and a nice matte surface here for the paint, for the primer and paint. And as you can tell, this piece here, I primered that before I glued it on. I probably shouldn't have, and I could just use some acetone and wipe it off, but I'm going to leave it, it's fine, because I'll just primer over top of all that again anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. That was back when I thought about priming everything before I did any panel line wash. But if you remember from previous videos, my idea here is by putting the panel line wash on first, and then just a thin layer of primer, and then the thin paint here, it will make the panel lines not disappear under the paint. They're not going to be super visible, but at least they won't completely disappear. That's my plan. That's my thought process behind it, and I think that looks most realistic. But again, back to here. My thought process here is I mask off along here, mask off along here, and then hand paint the white along here. And then once that was cured and done and dried, then I did this one. Now that that's cured and done and dried, I'll do one of these, and then I'll do one. I'm doing each one at a time individually because I just think I'll get better results that way. I'm afraid if I mask everything and paint everything at once, it'll be a lot easier to make one minor little mistake. So I'm just focusing on one panel or one line at a time. And once it's all done, then I'll mask off a little tiny line and go in with a dark, either black or a dark gray, to paint in the seam between the panels. Okay, and again, I think that will come out about the best. It's a little sad that all the work I spent on the cockpit, instrument panel, and all the detailing, it's almost not even visible now with the canopy on. But if you get a flashlight in there and you really look hard, you can pick out most of those details. But yeah, it's mostly all hidden now, but I think it looks all right. I think it's coming along okay. So next step here, I just want to finish the white here. Then I'll mask over the whole thing and just primer the whole thing. And then once that primer is set, I'll start masking off for the various colors, the white, yellow, and blue. So anyways, let me get a little bit more work done on it. Oh, and I still have to put the nose cone on it. What I did, before I completely end it here, I went online and I ordered. Hold on one second here. If we take a look at this parts tree here, this piece right here, that is the pitot tube that goes into the point of the nose cone. Plastic pitot tubes, they're fragile. They're not perfectly round, and it's just, I don't like it. So I went online, I went on eBay, and I ordered some hypodermic needles. I got a number 9, which if you measure the outside diameter of this, that measures about 1 millimeter outside diameter. The smaller portion here measures about 0.5 millimeter. So I got a number 9 hypodermic needle that measures 0.9 millimeters, close enough. The inside diameter is 0.65, and the smaller needle that I got is an outside diameter of 0.6, so that should slide in there nice and neat. So I'll make a new pitot tube out of those hypodermic needles, and hopefully that works, because that was about $7 worth of little stainless steel needles to make a pitot tube. So if it works, that pitot tube is going to cost me $7. But I'm getting paid to build this, so it all totals into the price of the build. But I think that will just look a whole lot nicer than the plastic pitot tube here, and it'll definitely be a lot more durable, because if it breaks during shipping this thing to him, then he would have a hard time. Anybody would have a hard time trying to glue that thing back on. And what I'm going to try to do is I'll make the metal pitot tube. I'll make it to where it just slides into the nose cone. For example, if we take a look at the nose cone, what I plan on doing is drilling it out at the point here, and installing a tube that goes through to the inside to make it to where he can just take the hypodermic pitot tube and just slide it in place with just a little dot. Even white glue would be fine. But I'll ship that in a separate little box so it doesn't get banged up during shipping. And he could just take that and stick it in and be done with it. So that's the plan for that. Hopefully that works. And hopefully nobody, handles it too much once he's got it. And shipping is another thing, but shipping shouldn't be too bad. They they're based out of Germany, but they fly into the States, and all I have to do, they go to a local airport, and I hand deliver it in a box to their airplane, and they fly it back to him at his home base, or where he's at. So that works out pretty well. Don't have to worry about, post office or FedEx or UPS dropping and throwing this thing around. Their flight crew will treat it nicely. So anyways, I feel like I say that a lot. Anyways, but let me finish that, and I'll get a coat of primer on the whole thing. One thing I still want to do, here's the bottom view. I haven't showed you guys the bottom view of this, and it actually, I think it looks kind of cool as is. I kind of wish I could just leave it unpainted, because I really like the way that panel accent showed up. But remember, there's inside here, there's plywood right in here. So before I actually go to paint, I want to drill a hole here where I plan on putting the mount, and putting a threaded something in here that I can use it to hold this thing while I paint it, so I don't have to set it down on any surface. I can just hold it by a threaded rod and airbrush the whole thing. So I think that would work out pretty nice. So let me get some more done here, and I'll get back with you, show you what it looks like. Alright, so as you can see, I've got a little bit of progress done here. I gave myself a handle here to hold on to that while I'm painting it. Masked off the canopy, and I've got a coat of primer. Just a thin coat of white primer. So what I'm ready for now is to start masking off for the color. And just to remind you, what we're after here, I'm still debating on whether I want to, I'm going to do the white first, but I'm debating on if I want to mask this off, just the bottom, and then just paint the top, let that set, and then mask off the top and paint the bottom, or mask all of this and do top and bottom, both whites together. The only reason I would do top first and bottom later is because I think it would be easier to mask off that point if I just masked it off and did the top and then remasked it after 2 or 3 days and did the bottom. Because I think masking that off in that fine point on each side, that might be a little, I don't know, it'd probably be okay. I'm probably just overthinking it. Bigger concern I have is exactly how to do this area here. As you can see, I have not attached the inlet, this area here. I have not attached that yet because this blue here and that yellow, they're going to kind of come up here, which is underneath of that intake area. So I need to paint that before I put that on. So I'm also a little bit, I guess concerned is an okay word. Still trying to figure out exactly how I want to do that. What I may do when I mask that off is just set that in place, taped on, use the masking to tape it on. And I'm going to take that back because I need to paint under here first before I put that on. So yeah, I still got to work that out exactly how I want to do that. But anyway, so I'm hoping as I start masking it off, it'll kind of, it'll kind of just hit me how I should do it, maybe. So we'll just kind of see how it goes. Before I start masking and painting, one other thing that I mentioned about the pitot tube, and this is the kit pitot tube right here, and it's plastic, and I'm concerned that if I use that, well, for one thing, I don't think it'd look very good because it's probably not perfectly straight being plastic, and it would probably bend or break pretty easily. So my thought was to remake this out of metal. So I went on eBay and I bought some syringes. I got a number 6 and number 9, and there's one missing out of each pack. I'll show you what they look like here in just a second. And I was a little bit, I should have realized it. When I ordered these on eBay, it said, the one seller had, I don't know, 5 or 6 different sizes, and you pick the size you want and how many. So I picked a number 6 and number 6 and said I wanted 1, and a number 9 and said I wanted 1. I should have known better, but I didn't even notice that that was for one set of 10. So here I am thinking to myself, I just spent $7 to make one pitot tube. Well, no, I spent $7 to be able to make 10 pitot tubes, which I'm not going to make 10 pitot tubes, so I'll save these and use them for other stuff later. But here's the 2 I took out just to take a look at. And the sizes I got, when I measured the outside diameter of the plastic pitot tube, it was right around, well, take a look here, 1 millimeter, I believe. And this is 0.9. Well, that says 0.8. But according to the listing, this is a number 9. So that theoretically would measure 9 millimeters. Now I know this is a cheap, it only goes to 1 decimal point. This is a cheap caliper here. So that could be 0.87. I would have to use a better caliper to know for a fact. But theoretically that's 0.9 millimeters, which is close enough to me to the 1 millimeter. And this one should be 0.6, and it's 0.5, which actually is what this measured. See, this is in 2 steps here. There's 0.5, and then the bigger end, and it says 0.8, which is, that's funny, which is exactly what this is. Now it says 7. It said 8 earlier. There it goes, 0.8 right there. So these 2 needles I got here will make that one pitot probe. And I made sure when I ordered them that the outside diameter of this, this is 0.6, or measured 0.5. The inside diameter of this one is 0.65, and I don't really have a way to measure that, but as you can see, they do slide together. So what I will do is cut off the length here that I need, cut off the length of this one that I need, and bond them together, and to make the pitot tube. And what I did before I attached the nose cone was I drilled a tiny little hole in the point there, and that is just the right size. See if I can do this without scratching it up. It's just the right size to take that. So that looks kind of weird. So so my pitot tube will have that size sticking out each end. One end will be used to bond into the point there, all the way to the bigger diameter. And one thing I also have to try is I have to try a flare. If we take a look at this, this is the end that goes to the nose cone, and it's not focusing very well, but there's a little flare on the end of it, a little tiny flare. So what I'll do is when I cut this one off, I'll try to find like a steel point on something and see if I can hammer a little bit of a flare into that. If I screw it up, I got 9 more, so, and it's plenty long enough, I could probably screw this up twice and still have enough to make that. So those are the plans for the pitot tube, and I'll be surprised if I manage to get that done without stabbing myself at least once. But anyways, I guess that's the plan now, is I'll start masking off and painting. Like I said, I'll do the white first. And so let me get that done. Let me get that masked off. I hate that word, masked off. And show you what it looks like right before I paint it. All right, so I've got it all masked off, and I decided to just do one part at a time. I'm just going to do this top part here. Again, that'll just be the top white. And because it's just easier to mask there down and not have to worry about getting this and then doing that. So again, it's just, this, I have plenty of time to get this done. So it's not like I have to have it done by the end of the week or anything like that. So I got plenty of time to just take my time with it, focus on one part at a time, and make sure it's right. And as best as I can tell, now I used this for the first line, and then I just went over it with normal masking tape after that. And as best as I can tell, the curve that takes all the way back and back to here is should be, I even measured side to side to make sure it's all right. And like I said, as far as I can tell, it's good. And even if it's not quite perfect, remember this line is actually going to be under the yellow, so I have a chance to perfect it up when I put the yellow on. If there is any problem when I put the yellow color on, that'll go over top of that edge. But I tried to make it as straight and uniform and even as I could. And I masked it off with those side pieces on, and then I cut those side pieces off and taped them to there. So there's one side, and then that's for the other. So I'll go ahead and paint those as well. So that way I'm painting those pieces, everything separately, and they'll go on last. And probably what I'll do, I think I had a good idea here. Probably what I'll do is when it comes time to do the blue and the yellow, I'll do this blue first, and the yellow. I'll do all of this half here first. When that's done, then I'll glue on the intake panels, or the intake sections, and then do the blue and the yellow back here. And I think that'll give me the best result, hopefully. So let me go ahead and get some white sprayed on here, and I'll show you what that looks like when that part's done. And I'll probably just let that white, I'll let it dry for a few hours before I start taking any tape off, but I'll let it set for a couple of days before I mask off and do the bottom half. I want to make sure it's cured well enough so I don't leave any fingerprints in it when I start masking off anything else. So let me get a coat of paint on that, and I'll get back with you. Okay, so this project is dragging on way too long. I really need to get this done. I was really hoping to have all of the paintwork front half forward done by now, but this past week has been really hot and humid out, and it's just, you know, a little too humid to be painting. But tomorrow is supposed to be pretty nice. So my plan is, and you know, I've said this a bunch of times already, plans change, but the plan is to mask off for the yellow stripes and get those painted tomorrow, and then hopefully get the black stripes painted next week sometime. And then I can put these on and paint the back half. And again, just to show you why I'm doing this half first, if we take a look at those other pieces, for example, if we take a look at this piece, which goes here, now I've already painted the top edge of that white, but you'll notice that the blue and also the yellow and black that will go there goes underneath of that piece. All right, you can kind of see that there. It goes underneath of that piece. And I was concerned that if I attached this first, then I wouldn't be able to get paint underneath, and you would see a weird shadow underneath of it. And also, if I did that, I'd have to mask all of this, the black here. I'd have to mask all of that off while I painted that, which would be a lot of that under that part. So again, once I get the yellow and black stripes painted here, then I will attach these, and then I will paint the back half of that. And it's actually right there. And it's a few extra steps, but I think that'll give me the best result. I think that's the best way to give me what I'm looking for. And there'll be a little bit of touch up when it's all done. For example, I still have a little bit of tape left on here, but right here, there's a little issue right there. I'm not quite sure what happened with that. Looks like a little problems back here as well. So once it's all painted, I'll fix all of those little issues there. That blue is just the liquid mask that I still have to scrape off. Again, there's a little piece of masking tape on there that I need to take off. But yeah, there's just a little bit of touch up, and like right here, that line will need to be touched up a bit. But again, I'll do all the paint touch up after it's all completely painted. But I mean, it's coming out pretty well so far, I think. I think it looks nice. It's just taking way longer than it should. So again, today I'll mask off, and tomorrow I paint, hopefully. So I'll get back with you when it's painted. I'll show you what the stripes look like. So I was finally able to get a stripe of yellow sprayed on this, and we'll get a closer look at this thing. And yeah, as you can tell, I only did one yellow stripe here. In a couple of days, I'll do the lower yellow stripe. The main reason why I'm masking off and painting one stripe at a time is because it gets so skinny, it gets so fine at that front point here that, you know, masking that off is difficult enough just doing one. If I were to try to mask off both, then I think that point would be more likely to just get all distorted or fouled up or not very good. Trying to focus in on it a little bit better. And I still have a skinny little black stripe to paint in over top of that. One area I did kind of screw up on, you can see the wings down here. When I masked off the wings, I left a space for the yellow that was white. So what I mean is, when I masked off for the yellow stripe, it was white underneath. So I was painting yellow over top of the white. I kind of screwed up and didn't do that on the fuselage. On the fuselage, when I masked off for the yellow stripe, it was blue underneath. So I was painting yellow over top of blue. And this tiny little voice in the back of my head told me, don't do it, it's not gonna work. But I told that tiny little voice to shut the heck up, and I sprayed it anyways, and it didn't work. That was a shade darker than that. And so what I had to do is I let it dry for a little bit. And I didn't take any of the masking off, but I very carefully took a clean paper towel, and I got it just a little bit damp with enamel thinner. And again, with the tape still on it, I would take that paper towel, and I would just swipe once, get to a clean surface, swipe again, get to a clean surface, swipe again. And again, it was just very damply, it was just very minimally damp with the thinner. I didn't want it wet. I didn't want it to seep under the paint. I didn't want it to affect the stickiness of the tape. Yeah, I didn't want it to seep under the tape and affect the paint, the other paint. So it took quite a while, basically just removing a little bit of the paint at a time until it got down to the bare plastic. Then I put a coat of primer on it and then reshot with the yellow and said a quick prayer and crossed my fingers when I pulled the masking off, and it came out pretty much perfect. I'm very, very pleased with the way that turned out. So, lesson learned, when you think something's not quite right, you know, you should listen to that little voice and do it the right way instead of doing it twice. So anyways, I think it's turning out okay. I'll get the other stripes on and show you what it looks like then. Alright, so just a little update on where I am with the paint so far. As you can see on this side I have the blue and the white on front. On the other side, here we can see the yellow stripe on the side of the blue. Here we see the yellow with the black. And so far I am very pleased with how that's turning out. That looks pretty good for the reference photos. Hopefully the video here shows pretty well. So next step, put the black here, then other side, yellow and black on the other side. And then I'll be ready to install the inlets here and then just do the back half here. And the back half should go a lot quicker than the front. And again, it's because of the fine points here. I'm really taking my time and being careful because that paint gets really thin towards the front there. But I think so far so good. That's looking all right. Now, I'm going to end this one here because this video is getting way too long. So when I come back, the next video, the front will be finished. You get an idea of how this is here. The front will be finished. The next video we'll start doing the back here. I've got some stuff to put back here. Putting the wings on, finishing this up, and starting the base. So hopefully, the next video I'm hoping will be the last video on this. But, you know, as always, things change, plans change. My work, my real work, is just got really busy for me for at least the next couple of months. So I don't have a whole lot of time to do these videos. I don't have a whole lot of time to work on stuff, to work on projects, at least for a couple of months now. So next videos coming out will probably be few and far between. So be patient with me. Apologize about that. But there's plenty of other good and better content on YouTube. So, you know, go check some other stuff out. So as always, until next time, thanks for watching.